Um, Good afternoon, good morning to some. Thank you all for joining us for the second session of the NJCAA Summer Seminar covering NJCAA Media. My name is Mackenzie Garrison. I am the Assistant Director of Marketing and Communications at the NJCAA National Office. In this session, we will cover various aspects of the NJCAA Marketing and Communications Department, including our Presto website, stats, polls, rankings, and awards. During the presentation, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat, and we will make sure that we answer all the questions by the end of the session. Also, as a reminder, all session recordings will be available to view on demand on NJCAA Connect by the end of each day. So at this time, I will turn it over to Ricky Webster, NJCAA Director of Marketing and Communications, for the presentation.
Thanks, Mackenzie. Appreciate you introducing me there. As you mentioned, I'm Ricky Webster, Director of Marketing and Communications with the NJCAA. This is our second session of this week's NJCAA Summer Seminar. If you were fortunate enough to tune in the first time, Bailey Sherrill, Dean Myrick, Marcy Henry, Brian Luckett gave a great presentation on NJCAA 101, how to get involved. A number of things we'll cover here today. We'll kind of build off of what Bailey, Dean, Brian, and Marcy touched on in that first session. As Mackenzie mentioned before, if you did miss that session, we'll be available on demand following today on NJCAA Connect. So be sure to check that out if you missed anything. A lot of great information about the NJCAA, its history, and just a bunch of different components of the association. Our session today will focus on NJCAA Media, some of what we do here in the marketing communications staff. Year in and year out, we have new faces join the NJCAA, coaches, administrators, staff, even student athletes, year in and year out. We just have so many new people. So hopefully this session provides a little bit of information for the first timers, as well as people that have been around for a while. We hope to provide some beneficial information that you can all take with you back to your schools. As we mentioned yesterday, and as the news came out, this year is going to look a little bit different. So we'll try our best to kind of stay on task here, try to treat it as a normal year on what we would do. But obviously, we know that the fall is going to look a little bit different. So we're going to have to regroup and readjust how we do things from the Marketing Communications Office, but touching on some of the big picture things that we do day in and day out, as well as throughout each season. So looking at a little bit of an overview of what we'll touch on here for the NJCAA Media session. Some of the things we touch on from our office are rankings, awards, statistics, social media. It's kind of a big one for us, communication initiatives, and just some new initiatives that we'll have. We'll get to those at the end, as well as a Q&A session. Before we get started, I just want to kind of mention our staff here, between myself, Mackenzie Garrison, our Assistant Director of Communications and Marketing, Sydney Blue, our Communications Associate, and Will Tyner, our Productions and Multimedia Associate. We had Tristan Spears as well, the Sports Information Assistant. He recently left us, but he did a tremendous job for the last 2 years or so. But kudos to our staff overall, helping us get the presentation ready. They've done a great job with the seminar overall. They just do a lot of heavy lifting, especially the last couple of weeks, trying to figure out the coming months and what everything's going to look like. But we've had some great support from our staff, and we've got a lot of great employees here in the national office. So just kudos to our team for all the things they do and every single day, throughout the weeks and throughout the year. So great job from their end. So the first thing we want to touch on here is our national rankings platform. Obviously, we know all teams are up for national rankings throughout the year for their respective sports. This is kind of a big one. It's every week for each sport. This is kind of what teams base their success on, how they get to the national tournaments, how they get the championships. We take a lot of pride in promoting those national rankings. From our office, we oversee 9 national polls through our sport committees. Sports such as baseball, basketball, football, soccer, lacrosse, volleyball. We've looked to implement tennis from our standpoint this year, where our sport committees will kind of take that in-house and do their national rankings for those sports as well. Kind of a new system, new process we're looking to get into with some of those non-traditional ranking sports such as tennis, golf. We're looking to do those in-house through our sport committees. Within the last year, our sport committees have been tasked with overseeing the poll procedures. Previously, it was done through region directors, district directors, but through a board proposal, those are given to the sport committees. Those people on the sport committees are the experts in the NJCAA. They're the ones that follow the sport from start to finish. So they've taken over preseason polls, regular season polls, postseason polls, at-large and seeding selections for national tournaments, All-America selections, and just some other things that pertain to their specific sport. We felt as a national office that getting those experts involved from start to finish was really beneficial for all of our teams, our student athletes, especially when it came to national tournaments. The at-large and seeding process, when those committee members were involved from every week, from poll discussions to seeing weekly reports, they knew what teams were having success throughout the year, and it really helped, with the national tournament selection process. Obviously we didn't get to the spring part this year, but just from those early stages throughout the year, those committee members, they were very involved. They had a lot of information, and they worked collectively to make sure that our national polls had the best teams at the top and those teams that were most deserving. So just that committee process, as Dean and Marcy touched on heavily in that first session of how to get involved. Our sport committees are made up between 5 to 7 members for all of our sports. Now, Dean and Marcy touched on getting involved kind of at a regional level, kind of the bigger levels. We understand that there's sports information directors and coaches and ADs out there that they're just swamped with a lot of things going on in their own departments, but they still want to be involved in somehow. Part of our proposal that was passed last year as part of the rankings process, people across the association are able to get involved on the poll committees. For example, our Division I men's basketball poll this year, they have 7 members on their men's basketball poll. We upped that to 16 members for the poll committee. That covers each district, all 16 districts for Division I basketball. That made sure that each district had a representative on the poll this year. We had volunteers such as sports information directors, athletic directors, conference commissioners. We opened up a nomination process, and the sport committee took those in, and they kind of vetted the process, and they found some of those people that were very knowledgeable in their sport. We had sports information directors from different regions that, they're understanding what's going on in that region on a weekly basis that our sport committees might not be able to see. So being able to provide that insight was very valuable on weekly poll calls, weekly discussions. They gave their insight into what their teams are doing, and the sport committee might not see that regular or that out of region matchup going on a Tuesday night, but those sports information directors that were involved with the poll process, they gave insight into those games, and it helped determine, they might be number 12 in the poll this week, but the volunteer on the poll might have said, they're a little bit better this week. So they gave them some more credit. That just gave more insight for the committees. We think that's been very beneficial this year for our committees. Like I said, just getting more information, more valuable information from the regional level. So that's a big way that people have gotten involved. And, again, they might be swamped with their time commitments to their own schools and their own regions, but this still gives you an opportunity to get involved on a national level. National rankings, the impact on postseason, it's pretty heavy. We'll get into the statistic part of it here in a little bit, but it's so imperative that our teams are getting in their statistics on a weekly basis. We have deadlines, we have guidelines in place for stats, and obviously that impacts the student athletes. The student athletes, the moms, the dads, their families want to see all the stats in there. And that's great for promotion and publicity, but for our committees to be able to see those stats on a daily basis, it's so important. They're taking in that information. The national office is sending reports to the committees. They're processing all that information. If those stats aren't into the system, that's going to impact your rankings. The scores might not be updated right away. And we understand, baseball games, four games in a weekend, that's quite the commitment for teams to go in and get scores and stats in there. But please understand that this is very important for our committees. They're looking at these scores and the stats that go into it. Their strength of schedule processes that they're looking at. They're just evaluating all that information as much as possible. And if our teams aren't getting the stats and scores into the Presto system, that's going to have an impact on the rankings as well. As we've done in a number of years, we've kind of cleaned up the process for the voting side of it for our committees. And sorry, my light's going out here. I'll start moving around. But we've kind of cleaned up that process for our voting members. Our committees have gone into the back end of the Presto network that we have, and they've been able to tabulate votes a little bit easier. Now we're trying to get to that public side of it. How do we make that more efficient for our fans and for our members? We're working with Presto as part of our new agreement. We just signed an 8-year extension with them, as Brian mentioned earlier, and we'll get into that a little bit later here in this presentation. But they're working on, collectively with the national office, a new process for how that's displayed publicly, how our members are working within a network to kind of streamline our strength of schedule process. We understand that there's so many regions out there that play different divisions. A Division I team might travel and play a Division II team. That Division II team might be a powerhouse. So this new process, this new system we're working on, will kind of evaluate that strength of schedule, and that'll all be within a network of our rankings process. So it's really going to provide just kind of another avenue for understanding how strong our schedules are for our teams, and that's going to be taken into account for our new ranking process. So we're really excited about that. It's going to be a lot of heavy lifting from the Presto side, building out the new member network, but it's going to be quite efficient, just as we've gone throughout the summer. And luckily for us, unluckily, if you want to say it that way as well, the fall is canceled. So we've got a little bit more time to kind of clean this process up and get it right. So we're really going to take our time to kind of build out that process. And when the spring rolls around and, we have all of our sports going on at the same time, we hope to have a nice clean process for our ranking system to help not only, our committees, but our members as well, and all of our fans and how they can kind of engage with that. So really excited about that new initiative we've got going on. So like I said, national rankings are a big part of what we do. We put those out every Monday for all of our sports, and we understand our teams, our students, our fans. They get really excited for that. It just provides another element to our services that we can provide to our membership and our fans and our students. So next piece here, another big component of what our media, marketing, and communication staff really takes a lot of pride in is our national awards. As we mentioned all along, we're trying to provide the best services to our membership. We have a number of national awards for our student athletes, for our teams that, are a really big deal for us. This is what motivates our office, is promoting the student athletes. How do we get them front and center and promoting everything they do? There's so much talent, so much success out there across the country. And, the more we can promote, the more, recognition we can give to our student athletes. It just goes such a long way for our membership and for our association as a whole. A number of the national awards we have here, obviously we have All-America teams for all of our sports. And that's one thing that our student athletes have the ability to compete for every year. No matter the level, no matter the division, what region they compete in, what sport, they have the opportunity to compete for All-America status. A number of our sports are done through sport committees. The sport committees will take the information at the end of the year, and they'll get together and they'll vote on specific All-America teams. And this is kind of what I referred to earlier with our new committee process, where the committee members for those sports are involved from start to finish. As I mentioned before, in years past, it was done by district directors for the rankings. The sport committees might have had a say in the All-America teams, and it kind of bounced around. What we're able to do now with the committee members, they understand the rankings, they understand what teams are doing really well, but they're also involved with the All-America selection. So they're involved start to finish with our teams, our student athletes, so they're understanding, okay, our team, that team was number one in the rankings all year, and we were able to talk about certain students as well. So that's fresh in their mind when All-America selection time comes. They've got all that information right there. It's been a very, very clean process for us this year. The committee members have done a great job of, communicating as they get on the weekly calls. Just a lot of great effort from our committee members, and I think the All-America teams have, really been cleaned up as well. And, we're really making sure that the best student athletes, the most deserving student athletes are getting the recognition they deserve. Some of our other sports, such as swimming and diving, track and field, bowling, those are all done through national tournament finishes. So again, every sport has the ability, every student athlete, no matter what sport they compete in, has the ability for All-America status at the end of their season. Another big one here that we just touched on this past week that we just promoted is our All Academic Awards. Now I've got a little star there next to it. I know this is a big point for our membership. We refer to them as NJCAA All Academic Teams. The Collegiate Sports Information Directors of America, they have a trademark on academic All-Americans. So we try to refer to our schools as much as possible and let them know that it is referred to as all academic, not academic All-American. COSIDA, as I mentioned, the Collegiate Sports Information Directors of America, it did just implement a 2-year academic All-America team specific to junior colleges within the last 2 years. And this has been a big step forward for our association because they do have the opportunity to nominate for academic All-Americans if they are a member of COSIDA. That's just been a big movement for our organization as those students get that recognition. None of our sports information directors, marketing staff from around the country, they are members of COSIDA, so they do have the opportunity to nominate for academic All-Americans. But as the NJCAA, we do refer to them as all academic selections. So when promoting those throughout the years, at the end of the year, please make sure you're referring to as all academic and academic teams of the year. So we can continue to have that status as academic All-Americans with COSIDA. If you have any questions about that, I'd be glad to clear that up and I'll give you some more insight into how you can become an academic All-American. But just to touch back on the all academic teams, just a tremendous year for us all together. Over 9,000 student athletes, over 1,000 teams earned academic team of the year recognition. Our academic teams of the year, we award the top team for every sport that had the highest GPA. A number of teams, we had Oxford Emory down in Georgia, had 3 teams with the highest GPA for their respective sport. You look back on the year and just all the adversity our students faced, going to online learning, distance learning, just so many hurdles, so many obstacles that our students had to overcome. And to see those numbers that we were able to promote last year, again, our staff just takes tremendous pride in showcasing those students and everything they do. We didn't have sports in the spring, we didn't have championships. So we consider this our national championship, promoting these teams, and just very valuable for our students to have a lot of pride in, to go home and say, you know what, I had to do distance learning, I had to do all my classes on Zoom, but I was able to maintain a 3.6 GPA and above. Just tremendous work all around from our student athletes and all of our coaches and academic sports staff around the country. You guys are the ones that really make it go for that and keeping our students on track throughout the year. Just great initiatives, great efforts all around. Moving on here to our student athletes of the year. We did just promote those as well. Those are kind of our 3 big awards at the end of the year. A big event we were hoping to get to take off with this year was our NJCAA Foundation Awards Dinner. This was a new initiative brought on by our foundation. And we were looking to, have that event in June, and obviously that got delayed until next year for our inaugural one. But that's where we were hoping to recognize our student athletes of the year. We have the David Rowlands Male Student Athlete of the Year, the Betty Jo Graber Female Student Athlete of the Year, and our Leah Plarski Award winner as well, given for community service, sportsmanship, athleticism, academics, and just kind of an all-around student athlete. Those are our 3 big awards that we promote at the end of the year. All NJCAA members are open to nominate for this. So every year, our nominations open up in January, and we encourage all of our members to nominate worthy student athletes for this. Again, this is a very, very prominent awards, all 3 of them, that they've gotten some of the most successful student athletes over the years. For over 20 years now, we've been promoting these awards, and just such a big deal for us. And, we've come such a long ways that, this year we had to revamp a little bit how we promoted it. Obviously, everyone goes to Zoom, so we were able to kind of take that avenue and do some interviews with our student athletes that won the award. So very rewarding for our student athletes, but also rewarding for our office as well, as we're able to promote that and communicate with our students, kind of get them front and center and show the deserving recognition, that they've worked so hard for. As we'll touch on in some other presentations this week, the NJCAA Coaches Associations. We have a number of coaches associations throughout our membership for respective sports, and they have specific coaches association awards. So if your school, your sport is part of that coaches association, you're eligible for awards from their level as well. Some of those consist of tournament awards, end of the year, postseason awards. So those kind of vary by coaches associations. But again, if you're a member of your specific NJCAA Coaches Association, you have that opportunity to earn awards through that. And, just kind of touching on our weekly awards here for Players of the Week. The majority of our sports now, we've moved to Players of the Week opportunities. This year, we announced track and field cross country. We're trying to get to all of our sports where we have some sort of, weekly accolade for our students to achieve. But again, this comes down to our membership having that ability to nominate and to make sure that you're putting your student athletes and nominating them for their achievements throughout the week. We try to promote that as best as we can, and some regions will submit their players of the week. Other schools might submit them on their own, but again, we encourage all of our students or all of our member colleges to nominate every week for all your student athletes. They work so hard, and we look forward to seeing all the great nominations each week. And our staff does a great job of digging through all the information and finding the best student athletes. But we encourage our membership to promote those and nominate those on every week for your sports. And hopefully we'll get back to that back in the spring, and we look forward to that as well. So moving on here to our next one, our office oversees our statistics platform, which is done through PRESTOSPORTS. Now, obviously, we've had a long-standing partnership with PRESTOSPORTS, which started as kind of just our statistics platform. We've evolved with our website, our TV network that we'll talk about here in a little bit as well. So kind of bringing everything under one house, but it all started with our stats platform. And, I think we've evolved tremendously with our stats initiatives and processes for our membership. And obviously we've still got a ways to go, and it's not perfect, but we're working hard at that as well. With our statistics, we have a number of guidelines and deadlines that member schools have to meet and adhere to throughout the year. But as I touched on before, our rankings, our awards, these are all based off of statistics. Our committees look at All-American nominations, and they're basing it off what's in the Presto system for your statistics. And as I mentioned before, we understand the difficulties of, maybe it's a coach, maybe it's an AD, maybe it's a sports information director, maybe you're all three, in some cases at your school, you're doing all the duties of one person. We understand the time commitment it takes to get the stats in and get the scores into the Presto system. But what we try to reiterate to our membership is how important the stats are. Not every school can go out and stream their game. So these four-year coaches, they're not able to see them on video. So their next step is to look at the statistics. And if the stats aren't in, if they're not accurate, it's going to throw so many things off. And I think we're just doing a disservice to our student athletes if we can't get the stats in, in a timely fashion. We do have weekly deadlines. Someday we'd like to move that up and, get to where we can get those stats in sooner. But we're working with our membership, just through some processes here on how we can make this better and more efficient for our schools. This is something we're always open to. We're always open for suggestions for our membership. We understand the disparity between Division I, Division II, Division III, and resources and staff. And we try to put the best processes in place that impacts our association as a whole. But when it comes to statistics, it's such an important part of what we do. Our students work so hard and they want that recognition, and it comes down to our coaches and our staff to make sure that those stats are into the system, in a timely manner, and they're accurate. We get the questions from coaches and staff and even parents of stats, and we just want to make sure we have that, as accurate as possible for our students. We do have a couple options in Presto that some people may not be aware of. As we'll get into a little bit with our new Presto partnership soon, there are a couple options in there. There's a score sheet entry where you have that ability to go in and enter stats, a day after your game or after the game ends, and you're able to enter stats just for your team. That's very valuable, as you might not be able to live stat a game. You might not have a home SID, or your SID might be out of the office for the day, but you're able to go in and enter those stats after the game and enter it for your team. But the live stats option is available through PrestoSports and through our partnership with PrestoSports. And that's a great benefit to our organization as well. You may not have that streaming, as we touched on before. You might have streaming for a basketball game inside your gym with great internet connection, but you get out to the baseball field and you don't have that out there, but you're able to do live stats. It's a big benefit for our fans watching from all over the world. We have so many international student athletes, so many student athletes that come to your schools from all over the country. Their parents are looking into, they just want to see scores, even if they get to the bare minimum, and they're able to see live stats. It's such an integral part of how you promote your student athletes, how you promote your membership or your member school. So those options are available through Presto. And again, we'd love to talk more about, those options and, get into some tutorials of, how to do that. And we'll be coming out with some more information directly with Presto soon with some of those tutorials. A big thing in our association is in region games versus out of region games. How do you, as a home SID, put in stats, but the other team wants to put their own stats in. And this comes down to communication between schools and collaboration within your region. I can speak on behalf of a number of our regions that just do a tremendous job throughout the year of collaborating with their SIDs throughout the conference. They have conference SIDs. They have weekly discussions, monthly meetings, in-person meetings, and they're helping move the region forward when it comes to stats and sports information related duties and responsibilities. There's so many great sports information directors out there that take a great pride in making sure everything's done accurately, efficiently within their region. It's great to see that collaboration between everybody within a region. I recommend heavily, working with people in your region. If you have other sports information directors, communicate with them. What are they doing? What are their best practices? What you do, might be valuable to other schools that they might not know about. And there might be other SIDs and marketing and media relations staff out there that have information and, tidbits that you might not know about. So, the importance for collaboration and communication between in-region, out-of-region, it's very valuable. We have a great network, a two-sided network run by some of our sports information directors. Communicate with them on social media, reach out, send them messages. They're always there to help and give you some best practices. Like I said at the very beginning of this presentation, we have so many new faces, so many new members, so many new staff that come into the NJCAA on a yearly basis. And you may be looking for new opportunities or new ways to get involved. Reach out to those sports information directors. I can tell you that side of college athletics, all they want to do is help. They just want to make you better. They want to make our schools better. It never hurts to communicate and collaborate with other people around the association. We've got so many great members, so many great staff around the country that they're looking to, boost the NJCAA and build us up, and they want to do that by helping each other. So, communicating with your region, communicating with members from around the country is very key. Especially if you're traveling to a game as an SID, you may be going to another state. Members of Region 1, you might be traveling to Region 18. Communicate with those schools. How are they doing stats for the home games? Do you need to travel? Are they doing live streaming? A simple email to their AD, their SID. Communicate with that beforehand. Say, hey, I might have that experience of doing live stats. Would you mind if I come out and help out your school with that and, communicate that way? So again, communication, collaboration is key, especially in this area of the NJCAA. Moving on to our next component here. As Marcy touched on that first session, she gave some analytics, some insight into our social media marketing efforts. I've been with the NJCAA just over 3 years now. Mackenzie, she's been here for about 2 years now. Sydney, Will, I think we've really taken off in our social media efforts. Again, we've touched on the number of platforms we have and kind of the different avenues. We've branched out to LinkedIn, YouTube. We've got some new initiatives on our social media platforms, and this has become because of the heavy lifting that our staff has done. Brian Luckett earlier mentioned our branding. We really cleaned up our processes of how things look, how much effort we put into our branding. A simple graphic, we can put out a simple video or a simple photo, but if it has our brand on it, it goes such a long way. And we can say here in how-tos and, little tidbits of what the best practices are for social media. We could go on that for days and days and days because we take a lot of pride in making sure our brand is clean and efficient. But a little tidbit about that, it's if you're putting stuff on social media, always use your brand. It's so important. And that's kind of what we put a big focus on of, simple frames around your videos or, putting your logo on graphics and keeping consistent, shading and colors. It's so imperative to how you look in the public eye. And I think that's what we've done a tremendous job with from our marketing staff. It's just been able to, elevate the awareness of our brand in the NJCAA. And obviously, as we've seen yesterday, we put out statements and people are looking to us and they're able to see what the NJCAA is doing. And a big part of that is because of our marketing efforts on social media. So kudos to our staff, again, just a tremendous job over the years to, bring us to the next level in terms of our social media. One thing we love doing here is collaborating with our teams, whether it's rankings or players of the week on a weekly basis, or, we do human interest stories and features. We love showcasing our student athletes and our member schools. And that's what we're here for, is to promote you. We promote the association as a whole, obviously, but we can't do that without our member schools. So collaborating with our teams, there's some pieces down here about providing content to the NJCAA and student athlete testimonials. We are constantly looking for content from our member schools. There are so many stories out there. We have 60,000 student athletes, 520 schools. There are so many opportunities for stories out there. And we go out and search. And, as I mentioned with Sydney Blue, she's our communications associate. She's looking for stories every day to write about your student athletes in your schools. We do our best to look for those, but, we encourage everybody to send us your stories. Send us what you're doing. There might be a student athlete that overcame adversity, or there might be community service initiatives going on. But we're here to promote that, and we're going to do our best to find those stories. But we enjoy communicating with you, collaborating with your schools to tell those stories well. So please, reach out to us at any given moment and say, hey, we've got a story that might be interesting. And we'd love to take it to the next level and help you out and promote your student athletes. So again, just, bigger picture, social media. Those are some of the things that we really enjoy doing. The social media campaigns is another big component of our social media. Again, some of you may be new here. Some of you may have been around for a while. Our new campaigns that we've launched in the last couple of years is NJCAA Day. And every October we launch that, and that's just a big day to showcase the association as a whole. We've had some great initiatives over the years of kind of our themes and our processes each year, and how we make it a little bit different, but how we make it understand that it's about the NJCAA, and it's the NJCAA Day. So some of those campaigns that we take a lot of pride in, and it's a whole team effort from our staff of how do we brainstorm these campaigns? What can we do to get everybody involved, and how do we have the best processes throughout the year to make sure that one day for that campaign is as best as possible and makes the biggest impact as possible. So we take a lot of effort to build out those campaigns, and we're always looking for new initiatives and new campaigns to do throughout the year. I think Dean touched on it earlier with our NJCAA Forward campaign. We launched that once COVID-19 hit, and that just did tremendous, awareness for our association and how we're all unified as one. The NJCAA Forward campaign really took off, and now that we've got a game plan in place for fall, we're going to kind of revamp that, and we're going to kind of push that again here in the fall. It just shows that, we may not have sports, but our association is together. And that's our our goal for all of these campaigns, is to showcase our association and show how we're one collective association. There's 520 schools, 24 regions, but ultimately we're one association. If we can show our unified effort, it goes such a long way. So, overall on social media, those are some of the things that we do. And again, this is a big part of our marketing efforts here from the national office. As we touched on with Presto Sports, we did extend our partnership for 8 years. Brian Luckett touched on a little bit of what we're doing with the NJCAA network. You got the sneak peek for the new logo, some of the rebranding that we're doing with that, and we're very excited for that. This has been a long effort to clean up of what we're doing, get everything under one house, and we're very fortunate with Presto Sports to have websites, our network, our stats, streaming. Everything's in one house now. It's going to be so efficient for our member colleges, for the national office. Everything that we do can be together and efficient. So with that partnership, regions have opportunities for region websites that, again, we can kind of clean up and say, this showcases that the NJCAA is moving forward together. When you have, similar websites and similar efforts in promotion and website design, goes such a long way that it shows that we're one collective organization. We're working as an office right now to redesign our national website. Again, a big part of our marketing efforts. Along with that, we'll have microsites, we'll have championship websites. We're very excited about some of these designs that we've worked with Presto. Our staff has put a lot of effort into, coming up with an idea that we think is going to be very beneficial for our membership, for our fans to engage with. It's going to be pretty cool. We're very excited for it. So in the coming weeks, the coming months, we're going to have some new opportunities that we're going to be promoting, and again, we're very excited for that. The network's going to be, just such a huge element to our association. Being able to stream championships in the past has been great, but as Brian mentioned before, getting behind the scenes, telling those stories, not just through articles and press releases anymore, getting them on camera and showing them in the public eye. This is what people look for. You know, they look for videos and just those human interest stories. And if we're trying to take that to the next level, the network's definitely going to help us with that. As I mentioned, you know, region opportunities, region websites, you know, they're going to be able to be designed by Presto as well. And that'll be touched on in an upcoming webinar with Presto Sports. We will be announcing soon that we're going to have a webinar that kind of touches on all these components of our partnership. We're going to have individual sessions as it relates to stats, website, streaming. We're going to get the experts from Presto to get in front of our membership and say, hey, this is how you do it. Here's our tutorials. Here's your best practices. Here's why you should be, you know, doing some of these things. So again, we'll be announcing that to our membership, and hopefully we can all take part in it and get some of our staff in there to see the benefits of what this partnership is going to do, not just for this year and for upcoming seasons, but for years to come. This is a very exciting partnership for us. You know, it's been very beneficial over the years with Presto Sports, but with all these new avenues of streaming and stats and website design, I think we're going to be able to go to the next level for the NJCAA. So very excited, great opportunities ahead for the NJCAA. We had a point on there at the very beginning in our overview of communications, and you know, communication is a big component of what we do here at the NJCAA as well. Sydney and some other people on our staff kind of oversee the communication processes, you know, how we're getting you know, important email reminders and updates out to the association. A big part of this is updating your account and your profile in NJCAA Connect to make sure that you have correct permissions, correct assignments, roles in your NJCAA Connect profile. It's very important that you go in and make sure your profile is accurate. So if you're a coach of an NJCAA Division I baseball team, please make sure you're selecting your school or your sports coach as baseball. We target so many audiences for specific email updates and reminders that you may be missing it if your profile is not updated. Michael Arokas from our staff, who oversees our Connect platform, will be given a demonstration, kind of an overview on Connect on Thursday. And he'll get in a little bit more about just kind of updating your account, how to set up your account, and if you're a new employee at a member college, kind of the starting points for that. So again, that's just imperative for our communication processes, you know, making sure that we're getting all the information to everybody accurately, efficiently, in a timely manner. You know, it's so important that all the information that we're sending out, especially in a time like this where there's so much change and so much going on, we want to make sure that you're getting all the information as best as possible. You know, a big part of our communication strategy is social media, and we get a lot of information out there, but we understand that getting it to your inbox is important as well. So going into your Connect profile, and that's kind of where everything is done. That's where all the information is pulled from. So please make sure you're going into your Connect accounts, work with Michael Arokas, tune into the Connect session on Thursday to get some more understanding of how that all works, so we can make sure that we're getting as much information to you as possible. With that being said, that's kind of the presentation from the media side of things. Again, as Bailey and kind of everybody in the first session touched on some marketing analytics, just some initiatives we got from that. The media presentation gives you a little bit of insight what we do on a day-to-day basis, and just some of those you know, initiatives that our members, our staff from around the country can take part in, and how you can promote your students a little bit better, and you know, what you can do to, you know, communicate with the national office to make sure that, you know, we're promoting your student athletes as well. So hopefully there's some beneficial information for everybody here. Again, as a first timer or as a tenured vet with the NJCAA, you know, we'll be sharing some information on that Presto webinar very soon. We look forward to that. We hope you all can tune into that. See if we have any questions. If anybody has any questions about anything that we mentioned here, please send those into the chat. We'll get here. We got a few of those. We will have some information about Presto Live Stats with the new deal. We'll have some information coming out about that in regards to payment options and just some other options. Nothing we can get into right now. We're still working out some details on that, but we will get into that in the webinar with the upcoming webinar with Presto. So let's see if we got any more questions here. Looks like that's all we have for right now. We will be sending out a survey following this from our summer seminar staff and our team that put this all together. So please look forward to that in the coming days. and we'll be sending out that to our membership that tuned in. The Presto webinar, we got a question about that. We're looking to do that early August. We were supposed to have that scheduled the next couple of days, but obviously just some announcements that came out from fall sports. We've had to adjust a little bit and kind of revamp how we're going to do that with Presto. So hopefully we're getting that in early August and kind of a timeline with our website launch, our network launch. We're trying to communicate with them and have everything kind of a one big launch of what we're doing. So Colin here asks, are there any specific poll committees that would need additional volunteers from sports information perspective? That's a great question. As I mentioned before, earlier this year, we had football, basketball, baseball. They took that opportunity to have sports information directors on their polls. This comes down to if those sport committees do want to expand their poll committees to cover all of their districts. Again, such a sport such as basketball, they have 16 districts, only a certain number of members on the sport committee. So if they choose to expand their poll to cover those districts, if that district is not represented on the poll or the sport committee, those nominations will open up for those respective districts. And it comes down to the sport committee if they want to open those nominations to ADs, coaches, region directors, SIDs. It's ultimately up to the sport committee. But I can say that the sport committees have been very receptive to adding sports information directors, just because they understand how much knowledge they have of their regions, how much they're paying attention to other teams. I think it was a great benefit to some of those committees that took that opportunity. So stay tuned. As we get closer to the start of the season, in the coming months, we'll open up those nominations for those sports, and it should be a fun year, fun spring as a sports information director. So it's going to be a lot of heavy lifting in the spring, but we're looking forward to a great year. And again, we appreciate everybody tuning in to today's webinar. If you have any questions, feel free to email media@njca.org, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. So thank you everybody for tuning in, and we appreciate it. Thank you.